560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Anybody seen SecDef Austin? General Austin? Anybody seen General Austin around? General Austin, who is Secretary of Defense, went AWOL, unbeknownst to the president and senior staff at the White House. The report is he went to have elective surgery, and there were some complications. And nobody knew that except him and whoever constitutes his inner circle at the Pentagon. Well, that's kind of a problem.
Yeah, shouldn't the president know and Anthony Blinken know and maybe congressional members know? I don't know. We're in two wars.
They said, his undersecretary was ready to, fill in on a temporary basis, but she was vacationing in Puerto Rico at the time.
And she didn't find out until January 4th.
Doesn't speak to the competency. Elective surgery, too. I wonder if he's going to come back as General Lily Austin.
Yeah, what was the elective surgery?
We don't know.
Was it lap band? Was it something? I mean, what was it?
I mean, they're big on, die and LGBTQ2 spirit plus over there, so... maybe Lloyd Austin wants to one-up Rachel Levine, the dude over at HHS. I don't know. It's all identitarianism all the time, and Lloyd Austin's been a big fan of that.
That's true.
For more on this, pleased to be joined by Stephen Bucci. Served America for 3 decades as an Army Special Forces officer and top Pentagon official. Visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Steve Bucci, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me on the show. You got me chuckling here already listening to your opening.
General Lily Austin. I mean, you could make a handsome woman. I know general where they're beyond reproach, but not to me. So what about his disappearance? He did a little bit of a Mark Sanford on us.
This is, I was the military assistant to the Secretary of Defense and then his staff director. So I worked directly for Secretary Rumsfeld for basically 6.5 years. And I got to tell you, he was a very private person. He hated that people might know his medical stuff that he had to go through at various times. But he understood the rules. You can't just disappear. Your deputy, for sure, needs to know that she needs to be available and ready to go. You don't just go in for a medical procedure and not notify anybody. And then if it takes a turn for the worse, as this apparently did, and you need an extended stay in the ICU, for goodness sake, you've got a responsibility to make sure the chain of command is ready and functioning. And maybe you at least got to tell your boss, for goodness sake, the President of the United States. This is a Keystone Cops kind of event, and it's unsatisfactory. This is one, I'm not big at calling for Congress to do anything because they usually screw it up when they do, but this is one Congress needs to investigate. This is unsatisfactory performance and behavior on the part of the Department of Defense, of which I tend to give some leeway because I know how complicated their job is. But this is ridiculous.
Yeah, well, what kind of consequences should he face?
This is one, as I say, a full-up congressional investigation, open hearings, and somebody should pay a price for this. Somebody made a conscious decision to withhold this information from all the key players out there in our national security structure, and that's wrong. I mean, somebody needs to be fired over this. I'm not sure if it's Austin himself, but, if he plays it the way a military leader should, you're ultimately the one responsible. somebody failed here, and somebody should be moving out of Washington, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine if you didn't tell the big guy, but you at least have to tell Jill Biden. You at least have to tell Dr. Jill what's going on. So yeah, and by the way, too, I mean, Lloyd Austin is not a spring chicken, so any sort of surgical procedure with anybody in his age bracket is an issue. Of course, we know this, and so it is just rather curious how the White House can be so in the dark on this, and as Amy said too, particularly with all of the pressing national security issues at foot.
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff going on. This is not like we're all the lion laying down with the lamb right now. There's some pretty dicey circumstances out there that the SecDef is a major player in, and to basically have no one in charge of the Pentagon for a 4-hour period. I remember when they did routine procedures like colonoscopies that men at a certain age, we have to get those, but you have to put somebody under anesthesia to do that. They're out, and we have to have someone who is officially designated the acting Secretary of Defense during that time. Same thing with when the president does one of those procedures. The vice president shouldn't be on vacation in Puerto Rico, and they need to be where they're capable of immediately acting on anything that comes up, even during that period that we think is only going to be a couple of hours. To let this linger for a week, close to a week, and not even tell anybody is, or not to recall the Deputy Secretary of Defense from Puerto Rico is crazy. It speaks of incompetence or some sort of deception, and both of those are really bad situations.
And now we should know what the elective procedure was, right? I mean, if they have a congressional hearing on it.
There's some debate on that. As a matter of course, they announce those things. But, I don't know. Somebody needs to know, like the president. But, whether they need to announce it to the public or to every congressperson out there, I don't know. If you're having a mold removed, fine. If you're having you're doing the transition surgery, maybe we might need to know that.
Well, he had the elective procedure December 22nd.
Okay, enough already. We'll know when he changes his pronouns on his Instagram page. All right. So speaking of the pressing issues, though, too, especially since we got sort of middling statements from NSC spokeshuman John Kirby over the holidays, our hostages. I think we're supposed to care about American hostages. So not just the American hostages in Gaza, where John Kirby's latest pronouncement that I'm aware of is we still have hope. That's not a lot of detail. And then also, too, I'm glad the Wall Street Journal hasn't forgotten about him, but the D.C. Press Corps has. Evan Gershkovich, who's been improperly held by Putin in Russia for the better part of a year almost now. And just comparing and contrasting the efforts that were made to get Brittany Griner out versus this Wall Street Journal reporter. So what about our hostages in the Middle East and that reporter in Russia? What are we doing?
Seemingly very little. I'm assuming in the Middle East, at least the ones in Gaza are working with the Israelis to feed them information as we get intel through our technical means, and combining with their on-the-ground human intelligence to try and get them out. But we all know this is a very, very difficult thing, very dicey. They're being held by people who could care less about life and the sanctity of it. So it's that one. We're all praying that they get out, but I got to tell you, we're getting to make it a longer shot here. And that's sad, but that's the reality. And to say otherwise is kind of foolish. But the government should at least be showing us what they can as far as their efforts, just from a standpoint of confidence in the people that are supposed to be our leaders, when they come across as, well, we only care about this when it's a celebrity kind of person or somebody that's in one of the classes of people that we think deserve extra attention, and the regular folks we don't care about. I'm amazed with the journalists. I realize it is a Wall Street Journal journalist, not New York Times, but normally journalists, they go crazy. It's like they're the most important people in the world. Just last night they did a story on TV about this Al Jazeera journalist that lost his family, and then they go on with the tropes of, well, when a journalist dies, there's just silence. It's like, I'm sorry, journalists, you do an important job. You're not doing it terribly well right now, but you are not the most important humans on the earth. But all of our citizens are and deserve the attention of our government when they're under threat, as these people are. And we need to be doing something about it.
Particularly with the hostages in the Middle East, it just seems like we have outsourced this matter to Israel and whatever negotiations are ongoing with Qatar as the lead negotiator for Hamas. Is that where it's at? And it seems that that's where it's been for a long time. Is it still there?
From a negotiation standpoint, that is where it's at. As far as outsourcing to Israel right now, that's about the best we can do. The Israelis have the people on the ground. They have the human intelligence there. We are in contact with them all the time. They are by far our best partner in the Middle East and one of the best in the world, something some people forget sometimes. And the best chance we have of getting those people out is by cooperating with Israel, assisting Israel in the efforts to do so. If we decide to send our own people in a very specific circumstance, you have good intel that, hostages X, Y, and Z are in this location at this moment, and we decide to launch our people as an augment to what the Israelis are doing, that is on the table and may come up. But right now, we don't know where they are. And we're in the search mode as the Israelis do their operation. And without that operation, we'd have no chance of ever seeing those people again. I got to tell you.
Stephen Bucci served America for 3 decades as Army Special Forces, an officer, and top Pentagon official. He's a visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen Bucci, thank you as always.
Okay, take care. Thanks.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to podcasts of Dan and Amy from the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
A great smile can make you feel happy and confident. So when you consciously conserve your teeth, that glowing smile will show through. At Best Dental Group, Doctors Economos, Gavalis, and their staff are ready to help you create that perfect look or maintain the one you have now, along with general